And are you going to make that full screen?
Are you not seeing a full screen version?
I'm not.
Hold on. Thank you for letting me know.
Sure.
Are you comfortable starting to let people in while we're...
Let's let this screen get fixed.
Are we good now?
Yeah.
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 Cool.
All
Awesome.
right. I'm going to let everybody in.
Great.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining the Alameda County Community Climate Action Plan and Safety Element online public meeting. We're going to be getting started shortly. We're waiting for a few more people to join. Thank you to everybody who's joining. We're waiting for a few more people. Still some people joining. We're going to wait for them. Thank you, everyone. Maybe one more minute to 6:05. 6:05, so I think it's time to get started. So thank you again, everybody, for joining a kickoff meeting for the Alameda County Community Climate Action Plan and Safety Element. My name is Ivy Morrison. I'll be serving as the moderator this evening. We're very happy that you're here. We're going to go through a few housekeeping slides to begin with, and then we'll get started with the presentation. And this meeting is being recorded. So for Spanish speakers, we ask you to select a language channel if you would like to hear Spanish.
I'll go ahead and say these instructions
Thank you.
in the language. Bienvenidos todos los que están aquí. Esta reunión está siendo interpretada simultáneamente al español. Para escuchar el español, lo único que necesita hacer es hacer clic en la figurita del mundito que está en la parte de abajo de su pantalla y seleccionar español. Si está usando un teléfono inteligente con el Zoom instalado, lo único que necesita hacer es hacer clic en el cuadrito donde hay 3 puntos, seleccionar la figurita del mundito y ir a español. También puede seleccionar silenciar audio original si no quiere escuchar el inglés en un volumen más bajo. También habrá una oportunidad en la reunión donde podrá hacer comentarios. Por favor, haga todos sus comentarios por medio del chat. I would like to remind everyone who speaks English, whether you're a participant or a panelist or a presenter, to please not speak fast. Your interpreter needs to keep up with you. And if you're speaking too fast, there might be some text that will be missed in the Spanish interpretation. Thank you very much. This concludes the multi-language instructions.
Thank you, Patty. So I know we've all had a lot of practice with Zoom in the past 3 years, but I'm just going to go over some brief reminders of how to really make the most out of this meeting. To mute, unmute, press A, and we ask that you please stay on mute unless you are invited to speak. Press B to start your video or stop your video, and that turns your camera on and off. Press C for chat, and that opens and closes the chat box. And you're certainly invited to leave questions and comments in the chat box, and we'll share notifications if we need to in that chat box as well, messages to you. Please press D for reactions, open menus of nonverbal reactions. We ask that you please use raised hand feature to notify us if you'd like to be called on to speak. And we also hope that you will hold your questions. You're welcome to type them into the chat box during the presentation, but we're going to have a facilitated Q&A at the end of the brief presentation. And then finally, E, leave meeting. Oh, that's now in Spanish, but I think that one is self-evident. So thank you. And I would now like to introduce Assistant Planning Director. Oh, okay. Sorry. One more slide about live transcripts and closed captions. So you can click the live transcript. You can click the subtitle or to view the full transcript. And as an optional service, you can click the subtitle settings to change the text size, the font size, to make it bigger or smaller. Thank you. Now, I would like to introduce Assistant Planning Director Liz McElligott with Alameda County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivy. Good evening, everyone. As Ivy said, I'm Liz McElligott, and I'm with the planning department, the county planning department, and I'm overseeing this project. I'm very happy that everyone could join us tonight. We want to take a moment to acknowledge the sacred land on which we perform these activities. every day, including this meeting tonight. We offer an expression of gratitude to those who have served as stewards of the land from the beginning. We acknowledge the land, the history, and the presence of the Ohlone people whose connection to this land still exists, who still live in our communities and to whom this land belongs. As we gather this evening as part of our effort to bring it in unity, we look back in this moment to look forward to our work to correct the harms of the past and to preserve communities. We stand in solidarity with all Indigenous people and their right to self-determination and justice. We commit to working toward the healing of the generational trauma, theft, and dispossession Native peoples have faced and continue to face. Next slide, please. As I said, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to join us this evening for the first community workshop for the update of the county's safety element and climate action plan. We know many of you who live and work in the unincorporated county are experiencing the impacts of climate change firsthand. Most recently, so many of you across the whole unincorporated area were affected by the flooding and landslides caused by the recent storms, and you're still working to recover from the damage. Your input is vital to this process to ensure the final documents respond to your concerns and to support the development of resilient, climate-smart communities in the unincorporated area. So, back to you, Ivy.
Yes, thank you. So we want to start with a little icebreaker to hear from you. So this is a quick polling question. It's easy to take. You can use the QR code or the URL from this meeting with the passcode to answer the question. In the aftermath of recent storms, describe how you were feeling in one word. We'll give you a minute to take the poll. Giving everybody a chance to type their answer. Okay. Oh, don't want to interrupt, but we're all seeing some emotional words up here, and I think we're going to dig a little bit deeper into these feelings and into how preparedness and how well prepared you feel, what would help make you feel more prepared during the breakout sessions. Okay, thank you. So here's a quick overview of our agenda. We're going to begin the formal presentation with a brief introduction, an overview of CCAP, Community Climate Action Plan and Safety Element overview. We're going to break into smaller groups, breakout groups, to have a deeper discussion with you about preparedness. And then we're going to come back to the main room and talk about next steps. And so now I'm going to, project team. I was about to hand it over to Hannah Kornfeld, who's the project manager. This is sort of a snapshot of our team. And you will be getting to meet us a little bit in a little while during the breakout sessions. We'll be talking to you more. So thank you. And now I'm going to hand it over. Oh, I'm sorry, second poll. So in a word or short phrase, describe how you think climate change is affecting your community. So same process as before with the QR code, and we'll give you a few minutes to answer.
And Connie, I wanted to add that you can also type into the chat and we will add your words to the poll for you.
Thank you, yes. Permanent changes to nature, unaccountable damage, people want to move away, unprepared, feeling badly, inequitably, losing ecological balance. It's getting real, negatively, disproportionately, creating heat deserts. We're in denial, uncertainty, bringing everyone together inequitably. And it looks like there's more typing. Okay. Well, thank you. Now we're ready to move on.
Thanks, Ivy. Good evening, everyone. My name is Hannah Kornfeld. I'm with Ascent, who is assisting the county with developing the Community Climate Action Plan and Safety Element Update. I'm joined by several colleagues tonight who you will probably meet during the activity portion of our workshop here. Before we get into the specifics of the project itself, For those who are unfamiliar with the unincorporated areas of Alameda County, here is a map in green. It's indicating all of the areas that are really what this project is focused on. The gray areas are the incorporated cities throughout Alameda County. And before we even get into any specifics, we want to make sure that we're all speaking with the same key terms that will be thrown around a lot during conversations like this. And we hope that this is not going to be very technical, but please ask questions if there's anything that is confusing. We'll pause for Q&A at the end of this presentation. When we're referring to climate change, what we're referring to are long-term disruptions in Earth's climate system that is driven by greenhouse gas emissions, which are caused by burning fossil fuels. And the way in which these disruptions can manifest is through increasing temperatures and changing weather patterns. Resilience is the capacity of individuals, communities, institutions, businesses, and systems to survive, adapt, and thrive in the face of climate change. Vulnerability is the degree to which populations, the natural and built environment, and community functions are at risk from the potential impacts of climate change. Adaptation is preparing for and adjusting to both current and potential future impacts of climate change, while mitigation is targeting the source of climate change by reducing the flow of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, primarily through reducing human-produced greenhouse gas emissions. To put this in context a little bit, both climate mitigation and adaptation are vastly important to successful climate action. As you can see, they both are interrelated. So climate change mitigation is looking to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. As we continue to emit greenhouse gases, they cause global temperatures to rise and therefore result in local climate impacts, such as changes to temperature and precipitation, which can influence things like sea level rise and other subsequent impacts, which can impact our communities. And so adaptation really seeks to address those impacts, understanding that they're here. Many of you experienced the recent flooding, and there are more impacts forthcoming because of our greenhouse gas emission problem. So the Community Climate Action Plan is a roadmap for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and adapting to climate change. And this plan is referring exclusively to the unincorporated areas of Alameda County. That is the focus of this roadmap. As the project team, we will be quantifying the greenhouse gas emissions that are already being emitted from activities within the unincorporated county, as well as estimating what those emissions might look like in the future based on changes to population and growth in development and employment. And then we'll be setting greenhouse gas reduction targets, aligning with the state of California, who has legislatively mandated greenhouse gas reduction targets for the years 2030 and 2045. After we set the greenhouse gas reduction targets, we'll be establishing policies and actions to meet those targets, working in particular with members of the community to make sure that those policies and actions are achievable and feasible and equitable. And we'll be integrating both policies and actions that aim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but also acknowledge climate adaptation and aim to enhance resiliency. Throughout the project, we'll be engaging with members of the community, and we thank you all for being with us here tonight. And lastly, the plan will provide an implementation program so that this is not just a plan that sits on a shelf, but is something that is implemented and actually succeeds in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and adapting to climate change. So the overall objectives of this plan are to, again, reduce greenhouse gas emissions aligned with the statewide greenhouse gas reduction targets, integrate climate adaptation into the plan to enhance climate resilience, engage and empower the community in unincorporated Alameda County, connect with the county's existing and developing sustainability efforts. The county is doing a lot of work through different departments, and we're hoping that the Community Climate Action Plan can help connect a lot of these existing efforts. We're also going to use this opportunity to communicate the climate challenges and opportunities, and we'll be diving into that more in just a little while to hear directly from you all on what are some of the challenges that you all are facing currently. And then the plan will focus again on prioritizing the strategies and actions that will have the most beneficial impact to the community as this plan is moving from the development phase to the implementation phase. We'll pause again for another slide. So if you still have Slido open, we welcome you to answer this poll question. How quickly do you think our community needs to act on climate change? We need action right away. We need action in the next 5 years. We need action in the next 10 years, or this is not an urgent issue. We have unanimous, we need action right away from the 9 folks who have engaged with this poll so far. There's some information coming into the chat here, Allie, if you're able to incorporate that.
I'm not sure I can do multiple.
I don't, yeah, we might need to have multiple folks here. Yep. Oh, Bruce took back his response there. Okay, not seeing any more movement on this. Looks like everyone here is aligned that we need action right away. So in addition to the Community Climate Action Plan, the county is simultaneously updating the safety element. And there's a reason that these 2 projects are linked. They are very interconnected. The safety element is a required element of the general plan to provide community protection. It serves as a complementary document to the local hazard mitigation plan. It works to identify both existing and projected hazards, similar to what the Climate Action Plan does. And it seeks to minimize human injury, loss of life, property damage, and economic and social dislocation. It also includes hazard and risk reduction strategies similar to the Climate Action Plan. But importantly, it addresses evacuation routes, which is a new component of safety elements. The safety element also seeks to integrate climate change vulnerability and provides goals, policies, objectives, and implementation measures. So these 2 efforts, the Community Climate Action Plan and the safety element updates, will be developed in parallel. Both of these documents will address state law, and the safety element will be updated to comply with new state requirements, particularly that evacuation analysis on the previous slide. Both efforts look to conduct extensive and diverse community engagement throughout the process. And we're also looking to incorporate environmental justice policies. The county is right now in the midst of developing its first environmental justice element as part of the general plan. And we want to make sure that equity and environmental justice considerations are woven throughout the Community Climate Action Plan and the safety element. Yes, we'll prioritize these that enhance equity. And lastly, the county is looking to collaborate with community-based organizations and other types of community groups and neighborhood associations as we develop both of these projects. So if you or you're connected with an organization that's interested in partnering with the county, please get in touch with us. We'll have contact information at the end of this presentation. This is a general project schedule. This project actually has been in process in the background, working on some of the technical details for several months now. We're in phase 2 here, nearing the end of phase 2, where we've been working on a lot of the greenhouse gas emissions inventory and projections and evaluating the vulnerability of the county. And next we'll move into developing the actual strategies. So you'll see that we've got our first virtual public workshop here. We'll be having 2 more workshops during the course of this this development of this project, but there will also be some pop-up events and opportunities, as well as some information on the county's website to engage throughout the process. And then there will be opportunities for public planning commission hearing and board of supervisors hearings when we near adoption of the process. Okay, another slide here on another Slido poll here is which climate hazard are you most concerned about? The options are extreme heat, wildfire, flooding, drought, or I am not concerned. We'll give folks just a moment. Looks like most folks are responding with wildfire or drought. I do see in the chat, Stephen is concerned about heat and the associated strain on the electrical grid. Give it just another moment and see if there's a few more folks that submit their answers here. All right, it looks like extreme heat is the most common answer, 43% of folks. Oh, more numbers coming in. Split between extreme heat and drought at both at 38%, followed by wildfire at 25%. And we'll have one more poll after our activity, so please keep Slido open on whatever browser you have it on. All right, so I think we'll pause for questions now, and Ivy, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everyone for participating in all the polls and listening attentively. And now it's your turn to ask clarifying questions about the presentation. It looks like we already have at least one question from Bruce. Does the safety element include traffic collisions?
Can you repeat the first part of the question, Ivy?
Sure. I know I caught you mid sip. So Bruce asked, does safety element include traffic collisions? I'm sorry.
That is not part of the safety element. Circulation element of a general plan deals more about kind of how vehicles move about. But that's not something that's covered in the safety element.
Okay. And then there's a follow-up question, a related question from Joseph. Does the safety element include earthquakes?
Yes, the safety element does address earthquakes.
Great. Give everybody a little more time to think about questions. I see a comment from Lawrence in San Leandro. We won a $1.5 million state grant to plant thousands of trees to end heat islands. So thank you for that. That's wonderful. I think that was probably maybe a comment on one of the polls. Let's see. And let's see, so a comment more than a question, I think. This is from Matt to everyone. A significant portion of climate mitigation is transportation mode shift. That becomes a serious chicken and egg problem since no realistic mode shift is possible without contiguous, accessible infrastructure that accommodates all ages and abilities. Bicycle and pedestrian collisions are at an all-time high. Getting folks to, I think, begin mode shift will be impossible without, inclusion, scrolls for a while, of mode shift in the safety element. This should be in the safety element. So that's a comment that we are documenting. Thank you. Let's see, should we distinguish between urban, unincorporated, and rural as we move along?
I think to the degree that we can, absolutely. I think that the hazards are different. The ways in which people go about their daily lives are different in terms of commute patterns and things of that nature. So yes, I think if possible, let's try to be specific about where in the unincorporated areas we're talking about.
Let's see, Michael is wondering if one element would be loss of cooling resource by cutting out tree canopy, and advocates for the moratorium on tree cutting just for development, for the sake of development, I think.
Not sure if that's exactly
It's a question, yeah. Michael, maybe you could clarify via the chat. It would be loss of cooling by cutting out the tree canopy.
I'm wondering if the idea here is to make sure we're preserving the trees
The
and
tree canopy, yeah,
and making sure we're
to
thinking
avoid.
as a policy direction and preservation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, honey.
Yeah, no problem.
great. Thanks, honey. It looks like you clarified that for us. And it's definitely something we'll be looking at.
Let's see, are there any other questions that I might have missed? It's like we're all up to date so far. Let's see. So does the climate plan only deal with issues which county agencies can control? How will the county deal with state versus county need to act?
So the focus of the plan will be on things that the county does have land use authority or significant influence over. But there are opportunities where the county might be able to collaborate with the state agencies, regional agencies, or neighboring jurisdictions to have more effective implementation of policies. The state has its own version of a climate action plan called the scoping plan, and that was just adopted in December of last year, and that seeks to get to carbon neutrality by 2045 statewide.
Thank you. To see if there are any other questions or comments. Let's see, has the state partitioned targets to cities and counties?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for the county's targets, what we'll be looking to do is understand what is the county's fair share of reducing emissions statewide. So the county does not include all of the various emission sources that are found across the state. So while the state is looking to reduce, say, 40% below 1990 levels by 2030, that incorporates all of the different sources of greenhouse gas emissions that occur within the state's boundaries, but that's a little bit different from unincorporated Alameda County. So we'll be determining what is kind of Alameda County's fair share to help the state get to that 40% target, and then the same with the longer term kind of carbon neutrality goal.
Let's see, to follow up on Bruce's question, this is a question from Anita. To follow up on Bruce's questions, how will you collaborate with the transit agencies to come up with strategies to reduce emissions?
Yeah, another great question. As part of the strategy development process, we will be looking at all the other plans that transit agencies in the Bay Area have to make sure that we are building off of existing plans and policies. And once all of the existing or all of the strategies are drafted, I believe the county intends to circulate those to the transit agencies to make sure that those are compatible. And there might be some implementation responsibility sharing in terms of who would actually be the responsible party.
Let's see, the state 30 by 30 plan is woefully inadequate to recognize rural and ag issues opportunities and assumes some things incorrectly. That's a statement from Karen Sweet. See, did I miss any questions?
I think there's one from
Does the
Bruce.
state need to agree with our assessment of fair share?
No, the state does not approve climate action plans.
Let's see, looks like there's. Okay, from Stephen. Similar to those questions, because the county has lower numbers of jobs and higher number of residents, an emission assignment is based on commutes. You want to be careful not to blame long-term commuters for the housing cost problem, but still work on development of affordable housing to mitigate. Yeah. Just a comment. Yeah, thank you. Good comment.
All right. Well, if there are more questions, feel free to keep dropping them in the chat. There'll definitely be more opportunities to get those answered, but I think for now we'll move on to our next portion here. So we will be going into a few breakout groups to really dive more into climate hazards. So those 4 that we put on the screen earlier, wildfires, extreme heat, flooding, and drought. And what we want to do is understand how prepared you feel to deal with each of these climate hazards, what makes you feel prepared or unprepared. So we hope that this is a group discussion. We'll be using a virtual whiteboard, a mural board, and adding sticky notes to it. So you can either raise your hand once we get into the breakout rooms to participate. You can also type into the chat and one of the facilitators will grab your comment and put it on a sticky note. This is just an example of what the exercise will look like. So we'll be moving the blue dots on the right onto the range of not prepared to fully prepared in terms of each of the climate impacts. And then adding some sticky notes under what makes you feel prepared and in what ways do you feel unprepared.
And then after this exercise, we're all going to come back and summarize
Yes.
what we heard.
Yes. Thanks, Ivy.
Sure. And we have about 45 minutes for this exercise. So that gives us ample time to be pretty thoughtful about the discussion and the answers and inputting your thoughts into the mural board.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see everybody in a minute.
Si habla español, por favor, levanten la mano para ponerla en la sala.
All right, Paul, are we able to open the breakout rooms? Okay, we're just getting ourselves organized here. Thanks for
Yeah.
bearing with us.
I think Paul is probably busy starting to move people.
Hi all, if you haven't selected the prompt on your screen to join the breakout room, you should see something on your screen to do so now. Carla, I'm gonna move you and Esmeralda into another room. Esmeralda, Carla is an interpreter and she'll be joining you there here shortly.
I'm not sure what just happened, Paul. I got thrown out of my room.
Uh-oh.
Um, I got thrown into a main room.
Oh, that's weird.
I'm gonna go back.
Yeah, go ahead back. I'm trying to create a room for Esmeralda
Okay.
and our interpreters here, since we just had a Spanish speaker join. So
Hi, Paul, can you put me in the same room as Esmeralda?
you got it. I'm
Oh,
gonna do,
Esmeralda is here, huh?
yeah, I have another room for you guys to go in. So
Okay,
just hang tight.
okay. Should I, ¿qué tal? Bienvenida, Esmeralda, vamos a estar en un cuarto.
You should be there now, Patty.
Okay.
So we were waiting for everybody to reconvene. It's like getting there. Let's see, 27.
Great, welcome back. I hope everyone had some excellent conversations. I know our group did. Maybe we can just take a moment to just share out a bite or two from each of the rooms. Maybe we can start with room 1.
Sure. I just want to remind everybody, anybody who needs the Spanish language channel to please select it now. I'm not sure if we had any participants on that channel, but just a reminder so that you can hear translation again.
Nuevamente quisiera hacerles acordar que cualquier persona que solamente habla español haga clic en la figurita del mundito para ir al canal de español y escuchar esta interpretación en español, o ir al cuadrito de los 3 puntitos si tiene su teléfono inteligente. Gracias.
Wait a minute. Make sure everybody transitions over. Great. So I was the moderator for breakout room 1. We had very good input on all 4 quadrants. I think that, you know, to summarize, by and large, most people for all 4 quadrants felt pretty unprepared. Some felt somewhat prepared. And really, there was only one person who felt fully prepared, and that was for flooding. And it seemed, you know, my takeaway was also that people in the breakout group had done a lot in terms of individual preparation to help address and make themselves as individuals feel more prepared. But I think that the other takeaway was that there needs to be more done at the county, regional, state, interregional level to really address all of the climate change issues. And I think also the consensus was that drought is probably the most serious of the impacts. And hopefully I spoke on behalf of breakout room 1 correctly. Honey is nodding her head. It was a good discussion, and thank you to everybody in that room.
Yeah, that was perfect, Ivy.
Thank you.
Great. John, are you going to present for room 2?
Sure. Yeah, I'll present for room 2. So our group had, very good discussions about all 4 hazards. It seemed the majority of the time, people generally felt unprepared to somewhat prepared, somewhere within that range. I'm not sure if we identified one of the 4 hazards that's more than another, but it seemed like everyone, feels very strongly about each hazard in its own unique way. And we talked about things ranging from, improvements in community engagement and public education. We talked about, personal levels of preparedness, how, when it comes to finances, that could be both a tool to be more prepared, but also it's something that is inequitable for large portions of the population that don't have, financial means to be prepared. And then, we talked a lot about, the certain impacts of each hazard. And yeah, I'm trying to, we talked about so many good things. It's hard to summarize it in just a few sentences, but Hannah, I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to add.
No, I think that was great. Thanks, John. How about room 3?
Sure, yeah, I can share out. So yeah, I think similar to the other 2 rooms, I think on the whole, people felt some of the folks involved felt personally prepared, just in terms of protecting their houses and their immediate families. But I think all on the whole with, when it comes to unincorporated communities, everybody felt somewhere from not prepared to somewhat prepared for every hazard. Just to get into a little bit more detail about specifics when it comes to wildfires, there was some concern about traffic being a major issue on the highways near these communities in the event that there needed to be an evacuation. And then a comment was also made about water pressure not being great in certain unincorporated communities. And that might be an issue when fire departments have to combat those fires. When it comes to extreme heat, there was a recommendation that cooling centers would be helpful. And then in terms of the unpreparedness, a lot of the houses don't have, HVAC systems. And so when there is extreme weather events, they kind of just sit and bake in their houses. And and a lot of these members of the community don't necessarily have the resources to install the resources nor the time to install the HVAC systems in their house. When it comes to flooding, there was a concern about a lack of communication from the county and from the state government when it comes to addressing flooding issues. Multiple community members reflected that the flood control board the flood control, public works wasn't necessarily present in the community when responding to certain flooding issues. That was noted by multiple people. Also, when it comes to drought, that is another situation where they felt, the community members felt a little bit helpless and at the mercy of the government to make sure that there are effective water sources for the community members. And it's a long-term problem that needs planning. And then another issue when it comes to drought and extreme heat was the lack of tree cover and further removal of trees. Definitely a major issue in unincorporated areas. So those are the main things that we discussed.
Great, thanks, Joaquin. I think Allie.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. So thank you to room 5. Technically, we were room 5, although we were the 4th one. So we also had our level of preparedness fall somewhere in the middle. With extreme heat, feeling slightly more prepared for extreme heat because of hearing more in the news about how to prepare, hearing a little bit more from local government about the steps to take in case of extreme heat and how to care for your neighbors and family members in the case of extreme heat. And then feeling somewhat less prepared for drought than for some of these other hazards. And a theme of to some extent needing to depend on public officials or on the fire department, on police and first responders to tell you what to do in the case of a wildfire or flooding. So depending on your local government agencies to be prepared. And then a really interesting theme that came up that I think could be fun to explore is that while earthquake is not a climate related hazard, it's something that people in California are really concerned about. And if you're thinking about getting community members to come out to workshops to help you prepare for disasters, grouping climate related disaster preparedness with earthquake preparedness might help more people be interested in participating in those workshops. And then also just in general, a need for more Spanish language specific disaster preparedness workshops and information to make sure that Spanish speaking community members are able to access those resources.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for your participation. Before we wrap up, we have one more poll. So let me share my screen one last time here. All right, are you all able to see that? Great. So we want to end this a little bit on a positive note that, while we're talking a lot about hazards and preparedness, This effort is really to help overcome some of the barriers that we talked about today. So what are 1 to 2 words that come to mind when you envision a resilient future for Alameda County?
We have education in the chat, Hannah, just to note that.
Oh, great. Thanks, honey.
I'll add it.
Thanks.
See, some people are still typing, but some of the answers coming in are equitable, future for my grandchildren, well-spent money, energy independence, transparency and communication, natural solutions, accountable government. We'll give folks just another moment. Collaboration, decarbonized. Fund resilience hubs. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for all of this. This really is just the beginning of this project. So we invite you to sign up for our emails and stay engaged as we go into the next phase of this project. We'll be posting updates to the county's website and putting out emails as we have more events on the calendar. You can find the county's website at the link there. And we also invite you to talk to your friends, your families, your neighbors about this project. You know, the more folks we hear from, the more this plan can really reflect the community. So yeah, I guess, Liz, did you want to just say some parting thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody again for taking the time to come to the meeting, and I really appreciate that. Your input was very valuable, and I hope you all continue to participate in the process.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us, and we hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.